thank all of the students that are coming this evening. Welcome to another Pizza and Politics program. It's great that all of you are part of this discussion, and as I see Terry and others that have been here a few times before, feel very comfortable to ask your question. I ask people to give us a short question so we can have a good answer. Not a 10 or 15 minute question with about 2 seconds of question tied in there somewhere. That way we can cover more and more things throughout the evening. Our Pizza and Politics this semester has covered an array of topics and speakers so far this semester. But I encourage all of you to go to the Holden Public Policy Forum website at holdenpublicforum.com to see what else is going on, what upcoming events we're going to be having. Because we've got a great one coming up next time too, and I hope to see this crowd plus more even for that. Also, feel free to sign up for our e-news so that you can be the first to know about events that are coming up, so that you can make your arrangements and be there for those as well. For those of you joining us for the first time this evening, Pizza and Politics is a program that actually I stole the idea from a university that is not well thought of in the state of Missouri, KU. I was over there as a Dole Fellow for a semester, and they used to do this during the course of the semester, and they did it during the noon hour, and they would invite students to come in. They'd bring special guests in, and they would serve pizza and some soda. And so I came back and did the program here at Webster. I did it at night. In the evening like we're doing this evening, but still offer the pizza and the soda, and that seems to bring out a crowd, particularly among students. And I think they have very good pizza here, so as I said before, feel very free to get up during the course of the evening and go back and get some more. We have a very interesting individual this evening. He has been in the FBI for a number of years. He's been a leader at the city and the state and the region, and we're glad to welcome Agent Dennis Baker of the FBI St. Louis Division to our Pizza and Politics program. Agent Baker has risen through the ranks of law enforcement over the years. He started his FBI career as a special agent in 1988. And I didn't think he'd been involved with the FBI that long. He looks like he's about 25 years old. Investigating violent crime and drug matters. He then moved on to the role of supervisory special agent in the County Terrorism Division, where he was responsible for supporting, coordinating, and overseeing the intelligence collection and investigative efforts of the international terrorism investigations. He worked with the lead members of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, worked at the FBI headquarters as a team leader in the Inspection Division, and was the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Sacramento Division. Agent Baker brings a unique perspective to this evening's discussion, and I know that you in the audience will enjoy listening to him and have your questions ready when he finishes. He's someone that I think has a tremendous amount of insight in what is going on around the country and how all of us citizens are impacted with what is occurring in our country at the present time. I welcome him to our Pizza and Politics program. Please give Dennis Baker your warmest response.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate the welcome. I'm glad to be here at Webster University. Always glad to get a chance to go out and talk about what the FBI does. I found that, it's pretty amazing. We have the FBI, it's been around over 100 years, but people sometimes don't really know exactly what the FBI does. So what I thought I'd do was start out by giving you just a kind of a general overview about the FBI, talk a little bit about some of the strategy that the FBI has to address some of the threats that we're facing, and then maybe open it up then to questions. But the FBI, and as everyone knows, headquarters is in D.C., the J. Edgar Hoover building. We have 10,000 agents, amazingly, that work out of that one office. In fact, we've outgrown that quite a bit, and we occupy a number of buildings surrounding the headquarters there in Washington, D.C., because we've grown tremendously since 9/11. We have 56 field offices, and these are primarily in the capital cities of the states, or like in St. Louis, which is one of the larger metropolitan areas. We have a field office here, of course. And then in each field office, we have what we call satellite offices. So here in St. Louis, for example, we have the main office in St. Louis, and we have satellite offices scattered throughout the eastern part of Missouri. We also have 60 LEGATs, and these are offices that are stationed around the world where we have FBI agents that work out of those offices. After 9/11, we had something like 44 LEGATs. Since then, we've expanded that to about 60. So you can see that after the events of 9/11, we've had more of an international operation in place. We have something like 13,500 special agents. If you compare the number of special agents that we have to the number of, for example, police officers in New York City, which I think they have something like over 30,000, you can see we don't have a lot of special agents. In terms of professional support, we have something like 20,000 professional support that work alongside as partners with the special agents. So for a total of about 33,000 employees with the FBI. We are kind of a unique agency in that we are one of the few in the world that we are really a dual agency. Not only are we a law enforcement agency, but we're also an intelligence agency. So we have responsibility for national security investigations and for criminal investigations. As you know, after 9/11, we received a certain amount of criticism saying that we were concentrating too much on the criminal aspects of what we did, and that we hadn't concentrated enough on the intelligence aspects of what we do. And there was some talk about maybe splitting the FBI and saying, well, maybe the FBI needs to be just a Federal Bureau of Investigation and conduct investigations, and that all those intelligence functions need to be brought over to a separate agency. I know there's a number of countries, like in England, they have separate agencies. Israel, they have separate agencies. A number of those countries don't have the dual responsibility. But we made a lot of transformations after 9/11, and as it stands now, we're going to retain that role of being a dual agency with both criminal and intelligence functions. But just to talk about on the national security side of the house, we investigate international terrorism, domestic terrorism, and counterintelligence. And if I'm talking about counterintelligence, then I'm talking about spying here in the U.S. So if we have foreign nationals that come into our country and they want to spy on the U.S., then it's our responsibility to prevent that from happening. If it's overseas, then that's the CIA's responsibility. In terms of criminal, we have developed a very robust cybercrime program. Cybercrime has become one of the major initiatives in the FBI, and mainly because it cuts across everything we do. There's been a tremendous increase just within the last 5 years in the amount of cyber investigations that we conduct. And we conduct not only cyber intrusions, where we have people from the outside that are trying to intrude into the cyber world and obtain perhaps corporate secrets or government secrets, to fraud and pornography, child pornography, those types of investigations. We are one of the very few agencies, in fact we are the main agency, to conduct public corruption and civil rights types of investigations. Since the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that's been one of our primary responsibilities, and it's high on our priority list. But we also are responsible for violent crime and organized crime type investigations. I know when I got here to St. Louis, I was very surprised to see that we had such a high violent crime rate within the city limits of St. Louis. And I know that was brought out in the press soon after I got here, that St. Louis was named, according to one company who had taken a look at FBI statistics, saying that St. Louis was had the highest crime rate in the country, and placed them #1. But going back and looking at those statistics, we saw that yes, within the city limits of St. Louis, there were pockets of high crime, but you could go 14 miles outside the city limits and there would be almost no crime. So it was kind of a hit on the metropolitan area. In terms of just the region, the metropolitan area, if you looked at those statistics, it ranked very low in the nation. But we're still concerned about the violent crime. There are a large number of homicides, and it's surprising when I tell people that We assist the police department. It's not our primary jurisdiction, but we do have a mission to help with the violent crime and help reduce that. When we're talking about the criminal aspect and what we do, just to let you know, across the country, there are something like 18,000 different law enforcement agencies in this country, and that's tremendous. So the coordination efforts that we have to undertake are pretty significant. And that's calculates to about 700,000 sworn law enforcement officers just in the U.S. So that's a tremendous, tremendous force. When we're dealing with the intelligence side of the equation, when we're looking at national security cases, we're primarily dealing with 14 intelligence agencies across in the U.S. And that's the FBI. We have the primary responsibility for terrorism domestically, and CIA, Department of Defense, Department of State, those agencies, those are the 14 main agencies we deal with. And what we have done in order to address the counterterrorism threat in this country is develop our joint terrorism task forces. And what we wanted to do is harness the 700,000 law enforcement officials in this country and help them to join the fight against terrorism. Because with only 13-some thousand agents, we can't be everywhere and we can't do it all. And so we rely heavily on our state and local partners. So what we have done with our joint terrorism task forces is bring them into the FBI. We've given them security clearances. We give them access to our computer systems, to all our secure systems that we have. They work cases alongside the agents, so they are a multiplier for us. And those officers also act as a conduit back to their respective agencies to keep them advised and to share information with them so they know what's going on. And in turn, those agencies report information back to the Joint Terrorism Task Forces. So it's been one of our main successes. Since 9/11, we had something like 30 Joint Terrorism Task Forces. We've expanded that to about 66 now across the country. And we do have a very robust Joint Terrorism Task Force here in St. Louis, brings together a number of different agencies, federal, state, and local, to the effort of working terrorism. And just very quickly, well, let me just mention this because even though I'm talking about national security cases, and when I talk about those are generally classified investigations. You're looking at not necessarily putting someone in jail. You're looking at disrupting, preventing. You're looking at seeing what someone potentially is planning to do and preventing them from doing that before it happens. On the criminal side of the house, you're generally looking at a crime has occurred, and then you're going to investigate that crime. But what the FBI is trying to do now is prevent everything. Even in the criminal arena, if we can prevent a crime from happening, then we feel that's a success. In order to prevent crime, to prevent terrorist acts from happening, it takes a tremendous amount of intelligence. So we have really expanded our intelligence capabilities. The core part of what we do is in the intelligence realm depends on our intelligence analysts. We have a number of those. We've increased their ranks across the country. In St. Louis, we have a number of really highly trained and devoted and dedicated intelligence analysts that are helping us develop our strategy and helping us gather the intelligence that we need to prevent not only terrorism but criminal acts from occurring. We can always get better, but I think we're making some pretty robust strides in that area. I'm just going to mention briefly the FBI's priorities, and these have shifted since 9/11. But our number one priority across the country is to prevent terrorist attacks. And that goes without saying. That hasn't changed since 9/11, and the key word to that is to prevent. Our number two priority is to prevent foreign intelligence services from penetrating the U.S. So this is our counterintelligence mission. That's still a high priority for us. And then our number three priority is, of course, cyber crimes, prevent cyber crimes from happening. Prior to 9/11, each SAC, now each office in the country of our 56 field divisions, they each have a special agent in charge. I'm the special agent in charge here in St. Louis. So back before 9/11, each special agent could kind of set their own priorities. And headquarters would come out and they would say, here's a list of priorities that we really want you to look at. Take a look at your area and tell us what you have in your area, and then tell us how you're going to align your resources and what your priorities are going to be. After 9/11, we went away from that, and we decided that in terms of the nation's priorities, headquarters would set those priorities for the field divisions. So when I got to St. Louis, I knew that preventing terrorism was going to be my main mission. So I took a look at the resources that I had, and I had to determine how big was that threat, how many resources did I need to direct towards that initially to make sure that was adequately addressed. And then I could use the remaining resources and go down the line and direct those where they needed to be. So we've kind of gotten into the point where take a look at the threats you have in your area, align your resources accordingly, use your analysts to help you see what the threats are, to help you direct those resources, and make more efficient use of what you have. Of course, we always say, and I say this in my office, you never have enough resources. You're always wanting more resources. You try to use the resources you have as efficiently as you can. And finally, I just want to talk a little bit about protecting constitutional rights, because this is something that is constantly on our agenda, something that we always try to do. And one of my favorite quotes, let me see if I have it on my card here, and this is what I always like to tell my agents, and this is what I always like to remind myself, is that to keep the respect and confidence of the American people, the FBI must respect the limits of its power. So we know as FBI agents from day one when we're at the academy and we're being trained in constitutional law that the Constitution limits what we can and can't do. And that is our document that we go by. That's what we have to abide by. And I constantly remind my agents that is something that we do, because if we don't abide by that, if we abuse that power, then we do lose the confidence, the respect of the American people, and basically we're losing whatever credibility we have. The information flow that we want to keep going back and forth, that is out the window. So that is just kind of a nutshell overview, and I'm going to shut up and turn that back over to you, Governor.
No, I very much appreciate it. We were talking beforehand, and those who don't know, I was governor of Missouri when September the 11th happened. I got the phone call, and to be in that position of not knowing what the situation actually is, but still being responsible for trying to figure out how best to react as a state was to say the least, a difficult set of circumstances. Missouri was actually the first state in the nation to put someone in charge of homeland security after that happened. But I know the circumstances I was in, and when I received the phone call, what about you? How did you and your other agents around the country react, because you had to be on point immediately, not really knowing what the circumstances were?
Exactly. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina at the FBI office there, and we had sent a number of agents, I was among them, to go to Raleigh to do some training. And we, just like anyone else, we saw what was happening on TV. So we were immediately dispatched back to our offices, and you can imagine we were swamped with leads to cover because of that. And the FBI had 3 major crime scenes to investigate, in D.C., in New York, and in Pennsylvania. So we had a ton of folks that were sent to those sites. Every field office we have an evidence response team. We have a national team that's in Quantico, and then we have evidence response teams all over the country. So a number of those folks were activated to go to those crime scenes and help out. So that was the main response. But like anyone else, we were pretty overwhelmed with the amount of information coming in.